As written.
Do I get a
I'll second
second?
Seconded.
Okay, and this will be a roll call vote. Alex,
Aye.
Chelsea,
Aye.
Tom B,
Aye.
Tom M,
Aye.
John Wood,
Aye.
and Dorian, aye. Okay,
And again, Kate, amazing job.
Oh, thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
always an amazing job.
It really is.
Okay.
You know, I'm on a bunch of boards and committees, and yours are exceptional.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I really do.
We're keeping you. Don't be going anywhere. Okay, I'd like to move on to an update from our master plan committee
Sure. So
representative.
representative.
Yes.
So Sarah and I have been chugging along with the chapter itself. So we do have it's rough. We do have a draft. I can present it if you like, or share it out with the committee. Like I said, this is draft revision 1. We're actually having a master planning committee meeting in 2 weeks or next week? Oh, you're doing that right now? Sharing it, Sarah?
Yep.
Here, let me share it so we can see the outline. It's up to you guys. I can, we can share you this version or wait after the next meeting for input from the master planning committee. It's up
When's
to
the
you.
next meeting, Tom?
Excuse me?
When's the next meeting?
I believe
April
it's
7th. I
April
just
7th.
looked it up. It's April 7th.
Thank you.
Yep.
So in the meantime, Sarah and I will be, fine tuning this document before the 7th. But here, oops, did I just share it? No. Oh yeah, is this can you see the document?
Yes.
All right. So and what I'll also do is when I send it to you, I'll send the 2008 master plan housing chapter itself by itself. So you guys can read 2008 and now 2020, 21. But we won't read it. You can read it at your own leisure. But we have an introduction. We have regional and local context. Thank you from the HPP. A lot of these great stats, graphs, etc., is actually from that. We did not pull from that a lot of the financials, the income base of people in town. We didn't think that was applicable to this section. We just want to know, age groups, characteristics of demographics on here. This is, again, it's all driven from the HPP, this whole section right here. So one of the asks when I do send it to you, and I'll outline it in a few bullet points, is I want you to critique it. I want you to say, well, this doesn't really belong there, or I do not think this belongs there. So we can discuss it and either, remove it from the master plan or keep it in there. Right now, we erred on the side of too much than too little to cut it down. Again, this part where I'm scrolling through, hopefully this is not making you nauseous, is from the HPP. And then the committee wanted a section to do what has happened since the 2008 master plan. So we did a sniblet of the 2008 master plan goals, and they're right here. And then what we did, and I thank Sarah for getting this information, is, again, this is not all affordable housing. So we list the major housing subdivisions in town through, again, this is from 2008 to 2020 or 18 when the last report came out. And I also listed the individual affordable housing stock. Again, these, don't get stuck up on these headings and stuff. This could definitely be modified. But I listed from our, what's that document, Sarah?
These
These are from the 40B list that we have.
Yep, from the, yeah.
And again, from the master plan of 2008, listing these things, and they ask again to the committee, it's nice and big and bolded in red. anything else you want to put accomplishments since the 2008 master plan till today, we'll call it 2021. Anything we want to state. So this is more of accomplishments, not really failures, but accomplishments. And then the other section of the document that was agreed upon by the Master Planning Commission is active organizations. So we have the Affordable Trust that was done in 2005. So that wasn't an accomplishment of the 2008 plan because the trust fund came in 2005. And I just grabbed this from the Southborough website. Shopsy, again, we grabbed this. I think Sarah, you wrote this paragraph. Again, this is before the 2008 Housing Authority. And now the question I haven't read here, for the ongoing organizations, I list the big three: housing, Shopsy, and the trust fund. Is do we also want to mention the planning board or the capital planning committee? And so those are, I'm not asking for an answer right now. Just think about those things, and you can always get back to Sarah to keep open meeting laws. Should we actually include a little thing from the website, town website, on the planning board and the capital planning committee of our active organizations within housing? If we have a decision now, we can either yay or nay them.
I think-
Planning board is definitely involved. I mean,
Okay, I will unread that.
yeah, the planning board is definitely involved. I don't really know how much capital planning has been involved with us, really. I don't think they have, but let's take a look at a little bit further. We can talk to Jason and see.
The only reason is, like they're looking for potential town properties to do whatever to, maybe residential. I'm just
Right.
thinking about the old schoolhouse there, Union Street
Yeah,
Schoolhouse.
I have no problem. I have no problem listing them, but if they're not really involved, it doesn't make sense to do it, because then if someone looks at that and says, well, why are they listed? Because they didn't do anything. You know what I mean? Let's do
Well-
a little more research on them, but definitely planning board, they've been very involved with us.
Yeah, like I said, the capital planning one was just because they're looking for town-owned assets, but they're not an active, ongoing organization.
But for the one-stop grant, we're working with them and EDC on Route 9.
Yes.
Oh, that's true too. Okay,
So
see?
I think
So that's a missing piece.
For future, I think actually you may even want to include EDC too. If we want to take the grant piece that we're looking at. If you don't, then.
Is that just a point in time, one task, and do not be active again, or is that going to be an ongoing?
So from what I understand, the grant, I believe the one-stop grant cycle is a yearly thing now. And John, keep me honest here. I think we can't predict what needs we would have to work with other groups on going forward. So, but I do know that there's active discussions right now about the letter of intent between those groups.
What was it, open what grant?
The
The
one-stop
one-stop.
grant.
Oh, one sec, thank you.
I
I
think,
have what might be an irrelevant question. Under the list of applicable sites in town, is there any reason to put numbers of residents that are potentially impacted by both? Because I mean, most of those must have a capacity of so many residents. And I don't know if there's any reason to list that or not. Yeah, major approved
I guess.
Yeah, I think that could be applicable, because, kind of figuring out how many units were generated by each of these projects and how many of those are affordable is definitely, of interest.
I think we should definitely have how many were affordable on that, because that would be it's very misleading to think that all of this would be considered affordable housing. It'd be great.
No. I didn't say anything about major.
No. But I think it would be nice. Well, it's under the shops, the housing goals. Damn. Okay. So it's total housing. It's not, but I
Correct.
think it would be great to see how many units of that were generated were affordable. Personally, I just think that would be awesome. You guys can all decide that too, but I just think it'd be nice to see, like, wow.
Right. I mean,
Yeah, I don't have strong feelings. It just occurred to me when I was looking at it.
No, I think it's a good idea. I think that it would be nice for people to understand
Okay,
the affordability in town.
okay. No problem
In
there.
fact, we might want to even go a step further and say 5 out of 15 units, so on and so forth, so they can see the percentage.
Yeah, you could just have a line item underneath of it, Tom, saying out of the 200 units that were created, 25 are deemed affordable. You know, if it's easier just to do that instead of try to figure out how many of each of these subdivisions were affordable.
Well, when you say Tom, I'm gonna be reaching out to Sarah. So is that a readily available?
So Sarah, sorry about that.
That's
Is that
okay.
available information, readily available type of information?
Yes, yep, we can go through,
right.
you know, I just put this list together for Tom yesterday. It's been a really busy week, but I can definitely suss that out and get those numbers in there.
Okay, thanks. Good feedback. I like it. Yeah, so what John said is, remember, this is housing plan. It's not specific to affordable. And I think I do like this a lot. I didn't know we could actually get that information. How much of these major subdivisions in the last, since 2008 to 18. Again, some of these are not built, but they are approved. And that's why I said major approved housing subdivisions.
But if they're approved, does that mean that they have their percentage of affordability already in the plan, Sarah? If they've been approved?
I think, you know, there's a few that may, you know, end up coming off the list because of, you know, their status in terms of moving forward, you know, those paper streets are probably, you know, or those paper developments, maybe not the best to kind of include here. So I'll go back through again and take any out that are not applicable, any of the ones that have not been developed yet or don't have, you know, a strong development plan at this point.
Or you can do another line item of, you know,
That's a
just
good
say
option too.
future development and just kind of list them there, but don't list in this list, but make a note that they are
I like
hopefully
that.
coming, but I would definitely note them in there. I wouldn't
I
leave
like
them
that.
out.
All right, so add
Add an extra bullet for, you know, like paper streets that haven't been developed yet, but they're
okay,
in the process, or they're trying to get their, you know,
in process.
all of their paperwork through.
Add
planning.
for, we'll call it unprocessed, because they are in the process of approving.
Mm,
Right.
mhm.
Yeah, I would do a separate bullet for that, and
Yeah.
you can just list
Mhm.
them, but don't put them in this list.
Yes.
Right.
I'm just making notes. That's all this is. All right, so again, going back, this is the accomplishments. This is, as you can see, a lot of this stuff, you know, one, didn't happen, and two was, you know, expand the housing choice for Southborough for families. I mean, yeah, you can say that. Yeah, definitely. Look at all these subdivisions. So it wasn't like a lot of very concrete, you know, do X and Y. I guess the only one of that would be something about the zoning. And again, this is encourage. It's not develop. I encourage you to do that. After I encourage you, that has now been accomplished.
Right.
So here's that. Sorry to. Okay, so the active organizations, I did make the notes to do EDC and.
Yeah, I mean, we're not really working with them long-term, so I don't know if I would list them there. So again, that's just something we need to think about. So.
That one-stop grant, if that goes through, you will be working with these other committees a lot if you're really trying to get into it. Just because.
If you're working on the same project, yes, but if you're working on a totally separate project, you're not.
Well, I thought that we were going in with the EDC.
I don't know,
capital
John.
on that
I mean,
one
there's-
stop. We
there's-
had voted on it last meeting. So,
Right, but there's nothing
it-
concrete in front of us. So I'm saying this document is for right now, and it's what, for the next, I mean, I don't want to put
Okay.
something in here that's not,
Then you definitely, if you
Actual-
don't want to put in EDC, you shouldn't put in capital planning either.
no, that's what I'm saying. I'm not sure we want to include either one of them or include both of them in this yet. We need to discuss it and look to see where we're going with this before we put them in this document. That's all I'm saying. That's why I said put it, let's discuss this further. Let's see where this one-stop thing is going. just to stick them in there, I don't think we should be doing that. If we are definitely going to be doing a project going forward, then we should put them in there. It's for a discussion. So I would leave them in red.
Okay. Again, this is a draft one. It's still gonna have to, we don't have a deadline today to make these decisions.
No, this isn't the final document. That's why I'm
No.
saying we need to talk about this and consider where we're going and what we're going to be doing with these two people, so these two groups. So
Correct.
I thought that's what we were doing. I'm
yeah,
sorry.
I think that's what we should do.
Correct. So again, I want to, the goal today was to introduce you to the document. It is a revision. We'll probably be reviewing it on the MPC meeting, committee meeting on the 9th. And that's why, I can give this to you now. I'd rather wait until we massage it a little bit more, get a little bit, maybe revision 2. And then, give it to you probably after the 9th. And then, then you can mock it up, give you feedback and all that stuff, and we can discuss it at our next meeting.
Okay.
Make sense?
You guys have done a good job so far, though.
Yeah, it looks greght.
Well, you got to thank Sarah.
I was.
Thank
When
you.
I said you guys, I meant Sarah.
Okay. Let's say thanks, Sarah.
Right.
And,
Happy to help.
Happy to do it.
Happy to do.
and this is a section, we renamed it existing conditions instead of the summary of resources, because these are some of the conditions in town. Mixed use limitations, accessory apartments. These are limitations. And that's why I didn't want to say that the MPC said in summary of resources. We're like, what the hell is summary of resources? We don't even know how this would fit into our chapter. It could fit into other chapters. So existing conditions is our first stab at, what are our conditions in town? Conditions is we have mixed use limitations. Conditions are accessory apartments. And again, this is from the MPC.
How about potential resources?
Potential resources?
Just
But
as-
is it a resource, is it a restriction, or is it a
No,
condition?
I kind of like existing conditions because you're actually just pulling it all together,
Yeah.
showing everything.
For some of the other, chapters, obviously the summary of resources makes sense because it really talks about, especially for recreation and open space, it's kind of a summary of everything that they are already doing and kind of what they've galvanized so far. And, what they have to pull from, and unfortunately, I think, our lift as Shopsy is a lot heavier because we do have some existing conditions that have some barriers to kind of accomplishing our goals. And so I think setting the stage and letting people know kind of in the same way that these other chapters are giving a summary of what resources they can use, giving a summary of what's happening now that we have to sort of work through is sort of what I was thinking when we renamed it.
Tom, just out of curiosity, what is that dilapidated building? That
That's the
yellowish?
Andrea
That's
restaurant.
on Route 9.
Yeah.
That's
That's a
the
bad
Andrea.
side. That's
I
a
don't know if
bad
any of
picture.
you were here when that was open and in its heyday. That was a great restaurant.
Yeah.
That's the Andrea?
That's the Andrea.
I remember going there in the 80s.
Yeah.
I used to work
It's
for
a great
Digital
chicken
Equipment.
farm.
Hey, John, Kevin and his brothers used to all work there.
Oh, really?
They were bus boys, I believe.
Who owns that now?
The people that own the Volvo dealership all the way down, from the Volvo down to that. They had bought that and the brick building beside it, and they were just using it as overflow for the vehicles for the Volvo dealership.
Yeah.
We reached out to them to know that they're trying us up. What's sad is at one point, about 4 years ago, there was somebody that was looking for a restaurant site in town, and they didn't want to get rid of it at that time. And now
The parking. They want the parking.
now what's the problem with it is it looks like somebody's broken into it because the doors were open on the side and the back, and I'm assuming that there was new appliances and stuff a long time ago. I'm assuming that all the copper and anything that was of value in there is probably gone, and it's probably a tear down now
Oh, I would say it's a tear down.
at best.
Oh, yeah, it looks like a tear down now. Look at it.
You should look in. If you look in the windows, it's even worse. It's sad. It was a great place years and years and years and years and years ago.
Well, I think it was closed when I moved here, and I've been here going on 27 years, so I don't remember that ever being open.
Yeah, it's about when maybe 25 years. No, it was before my kids were born. So,
Because I
holy,
remember when I worked for Digital, I used to go, I lived in Waltham. I used to go down Route 9 and go down Parkerville because I had to go all the way to Marlboro, the MROs, if you're familiar with that, up at Cimarano. And I do remember that being open. I went there a few times.
I think
I
Sue
just-
and I used to go there on date nights when we were kids.
That's sad.
Yeah,
Okay,
it was-
sorry,
it
didn't
was-
mean to go off on it.
It's really sad that it's gone as far down as it has, and we've done nothing about it. It's really that's a blight. That's sad. That really is too bad. It
Well,
could
both
have
those buildings are, even the brick one. I mean, that brick one could be kind of cool if you made it into something.
the brick one. My friend used to have an office in there probably 25 years ago, and it was actually kind of neat in there.
Well,
it's not a
Volvo should
bad-
probably just tear it down because it's an eyesore now. I mean, that just looks
The
awful.
stone building between them?
No, the
The Andrea
restaurant,
itself.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
But rename the new restaurant the same name.
That would be actually pretty neat. Or if the same family even put in, they had good food. I'm telling you, it was not bad.
So here is again from the MPC, this MPP. We haven't really, Sarah and I haven't really went through this section at the end from the MPC. So, this could change. This could, depending on how the format we want for the master planning committee. This is again cut directly from the HPP and some recommendations. We haven't really.
Yeah, these are the goals and recommendations that we discussed at a previous meeting and everybody.
Yeah. So we just
voted.
put it into a different format, but
Yep, I just put it in the format from the 2008 plan, but these are the current goals and recommendations. Again, that this board discussed. I had it in sort of a table format when we were discussing it, but they're the same ones.
oh, thanks. I know it looked different, but so this is, like I said, this is draft one. One of the goals of the committee is to reduce the length of the whole master planning committee. So again, after the 9th, when I send it out to the committee, to Sarah to send it out to the committee, one of the ask is, if you think there's fluff, cut it out. They don't want this thing to be just, paid by the pages. Valuable content, absolutely. But if you think this is just really not saying anything important or new, let's get rid of it and streamline the document itself. So that was one of the tenets of the master planning committee.
Tom, now on the section with accomplishments section, now are you guys putting what was in the 2008 master plan and what you actually accomplished out of that? Or
Here it is right here.
that little blurb summary is it?
Yep. Each
So
one.
out of how many goals did you have where things actually accomplished? I'm just wondering what the implementation plan of this one's going to be, because I know there was.
Well, I would say H1 is probably a D. H2 is probably a D plus. H3, expand the housing choice.
Nothing.
Choice. What is the meaning of the word choice? I can choose between that colonial or this colonial, or choice that design.
But what I'm saying is, so those were the goals. Is there something that says what was accomplished out of those goals? Is there a way
That's what I
No.
need.
That's what we're
Help
working
with.
on.
Go ahead, Sarah.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt. No, currently, we don't have a summary of any kind of accomplishments. These are the 6 original goals from the 2008 plan. So what we're trying to do is, by kind of putting in the subdivisions and such that have happened, kind of spin up like a little bit of a narrative as to what actually has been done since then. Because the goals were sort of broad and kind of lofty, there wasn't a specific implementation strategies. And I think that that's unfortunately, what happened in terms of moving things forward. It was like everything was so too big to kind of get people's hands around. So, yeah.
So again, part of this too, we're gonna go back to the master planning committee, John, and say how do we want to, what do we want to put in this document, successes, failures, or whatever we want to call it, of the 2008. What do we deem, has been successful and stuff like, and like I said, after that meeting and stuff, maybe, there'll be a section that says, let's list out this, that, or the other thing.
No, I'm assuming all sections are doing the same kind of formatting
Yes.
as this one. That's great.
So actually, Sarah, let me see if I do have your email that you showed the sections that they wanted. Hang on, let me see.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, this is
Maybe at the
okay.
bottom.
Can you still see my email, or is it still the Word doc?
We can see your email now.
Okay, so if you
Oh,
see
there
right
it
here,
is.
hi Tom, here is the major sections that the MPC committee agreed upon: introduction, accomplishments, active organization, summary of resources, and goals. So John, those are like they want to keep it to that format throughout all the different sections.
I've
Yep.
looked at the draft once or twice as it's been coming along, and I will say, as a whole, the master plan committee, you guys are doing an amazing job. It's
Thanks.
I like how you guys are setting goals and accomplishments in it this time, so we can actually track to see what was done, because a lot from the 2008 I don't believe was done. So it's nice to see, you got a lot of boards and committees that are trying to move these things forward, and it's just nice. So I think you guys are doing a good job, and I like the accountability part of it personally.
Thank
and the
you.
I
implementation.
agree, totally agree. And that was one of the
Yeah.
things. They had pie in the sky goals, which, we got to measure things.
Yeah,
Measure
exactly.
accomplishments along the way.
Hey, Tom, can I just chime in with a couple of just broad thoughts on it? I haven't seen it, I'll review it more in more detail when it gets circulated. But I mean, in my mind, one of the major themes that comes out of the HPP, at least in my mind, is that, when the town's looking forward for what the master plan is and what we want to happen in the town, from a housing perspective, the thing that really continues to jar me from the HPP is the fact that there's such a shrinking amount of moderate income housing. And we talked in the past about the fact that, someone who makes $100,000 can barely afford a market rate apartment in Southborough and can't afford even a starter home in Southborough. And I just think that basic principle has wider implications for the town and what direction the town is going. And so in other words, when we talk about, housing objectives and goals, to tie them to something, I mean, in my mind, I don't know that we necessarily are aiming to have a bunch of low income housing, but I think it is a little bit of a crisis for the town that we don't have enough moderate income housing for, people who aren't doctors and lawyers to live in town, and that healthcare workers and teachers and first responders and things like that, and interesting people can afford to come move here in this town with their families. So that's just a general thought when you're drafting this. Sometimes that message gets buried in statistics and charts and things like that. But in my mind, if that theme can sort of come out, so it jumps off the page a little bit more, so that when people look at this 5 years down the line and say, what are we trying to accomplish for housing, that's one of the, I don't know, themes.
You're still seeing my screen.
I agree.
These are again from the MPP, but I do totally agree what you just said, Tom. And we could put down, one of our goals is exactly what you said, to have, not that it's low income, we get a moderate, I mean, what do you use, the moderate?
Moderate income housing. Because I think a lot of people, when they think affordable housing, their minds immediately go to Cabrini Green, low income housing project in Chicago. They think, well, all we're talking about is low income housing and projects, but we're really just talking about housing that's affordable to normal people.
Because this one, I just added this H5, if you guys can see, to, hopefully I got what you just said. I'm just gonna mark it in red. But this one is actually, if you think about it, increased moderate affordable housing. Okay, how do you track that? You know, we track the new subdivisions. In the new subdivisions, we could say if it's a moderately affordable housing, in other words, smaller lots, you know, a 1,600 square foot versus a 3,200 square foot house. I think that's relatively easy to measure. And if it's in here, that is a goal. I do like that a lot because we don't really say about moderate. We say low, we go low, or we go high.
Got a lot of high.
Well, I mean, we definitely want to do that. We definitely would like to see an increase in the moderate priced housing, but we don't control that. That's
Why don't we
That's
could
up to
encourage
them.
No, but it's like
diversity.
the things like even 40B projects. You
Right.
know, when they say they have an affordability component, you know, again, it's not low income housing; it's 80% of median income, which is moderate,
Hi.
which is moderate income housing. So when we promote housing with affordability components to it, I think that's sort of what the goal of this committee is to do, is to create more of that housing. I mean, we don't go out and build
But
it.
are we with the moderate or are we with the affordable?
Yeah, I mean,
Shopsy
I
itself.
think it's the same thing.
How
The
about
thing is
diversity?
that affordability obviously exists on a range, right? So when you're talking about, you know, moderately affordable housing, as Tom's mentioning, you are talking about housing your first responders, your healthcare workers, and your teachers. You know, you're not necessarily talking about housing your gas station workers, you know, for example, because that's a deeper subsidy. So, you know, saying, you know, moderate affordability or affordable housing, 80% AMI, that is the threshold. So, you know, for whatever that's worth.
Do we actually state that is that something you want to put 80%? What was that metrics, Sarah? 80% what?
80% AMI, area median income.
I know
I
in
don't
some
know
of
if
the
you wanted
condo
to-
developments I've been peripherally involved in, generally people will be eligible if they earn under 80,000 a year.
I mean, I don't know if we want to put that less than 80% AMI in this line, but
I tend to think we don't. I think it's just the concept. I think a lot of these are sort of broad, but just sort of calling it out as a goal would be nice, I think.
do we want to actually take not a vote, but do we all do? I mean, we can put it in here. We can present it to the MPC. I think they're gonna, no one's over there is gonna object to that because I think that everybody knows that's a need in town. Do we want to keep it in there as a goal, as a housing goal? This is not affordable. I guess you can call it affordable. Do we want to keep this H5 in?
I like it. I think it's great, but how do we accomplish it? I mean, if we're going to put a goal in there, it has to be attainable. So how do we control increasing that? Like, how do we do that as Shopsy members? How do we attain that goal? How do we make that goal? Because what I don't want to do is us put a bunch of goals in here like 2008 and not meet anything.
Yeah.
So is that a realistic achievement for us to
Isn't
increase
that
it?
our
I want
job?
to increase it. I agree
I'm
with
with
Tom.
you, John. That's sort of the whole point of this.
Yeah, otherwise, why are we here? If
Right, but
we're
how are
trying
we
to do
doing
that
that?
should be our main focus on this committee.
Okay, John, we are doing that.
I know, but you
understand
just
that.
said how you're saying to
No, I'm
keep
saying
it as a goal.
how are we going to attain that goal? I'm asking a question. How are
Well,
we
I
attaining
think
that goal?
I think that we're setting the stage to attain that type of goal, you know, by, you know, moving to get those funds transferred from the CPC bucket into the Affordable Housing Trust, you know, putting in, you know, that 5-year strategic plan into action. You know, I don't know when we rewrite the master plan again in, you know, however many years. We may not have developed new units, but hopefully we will have made significant stride towards the development of those new units. And I think that with the momentum that this group has and the engagement, I think that we will accomplish at least creating, you know, a unit or more by the time this comes around again.
at least a process, because I think this board's been doing great on trying to
Correct.
figure out process. So even if we can't increase the amount, at least I think that in the short time I've been on this committee, this board's gone leaps and bounds on implementing strategies. You know,
I
'cause
agree.
strategy's key, and I think you've done a lot of that already, Dorian.
No, and I understand that, but John, do we need to change? So I guess I need to reword my question. It's definitely something I feel very strongly about. You all know that. So how do we accomplish that? Is that something we need to work with the planning board and maybe try to implement something to where if there's a new subdivision going in with a builder, that they're stricter and it's more strongly worded that they have to actually do this instead of, flipping and changing things around. It has to be set in stone. Like, I want to do this. So my question is, I don't know anything about the bylaws with the planning board. Is that something we need to work with them on to make it stricter that the builders have to have this component and we have to achieve this component in a new subdivision? And I don't know how to do that. So I'm not really sure if I'm
Yeah,
that's
I
our
would,
understanding.
Dorian, I would just sort of talk about, I'd say two things. One, just a general statement that, this is not our committee's plan. This is the town's master plan. So we're asking the town to include in its master plan for the next, I don't know how long, these last 10 years, that we want the town to make it as their goal to increase affordable housing. And then your question then becomes the goal of how does that implement it? That's where our committee comes in over the next 10 years to figure out ways to implement that. This isn't a goal for us that we have to meet in terms of the master plan. It's something that we want the town to identify as a priority. But then to your second question, Dorian, I think the stuff that we do on a daily basis all goes towards achieving that. Just for instance, we talked about doing a 40R zoning. The whole point of a 40R is to create a zoning district where a percentage of the housing units that are created within that district are affordable. That's one way that our committee, that's one strategy that we've, as a committee, have come up with to help create affordable housing. Another way that we're, trying to achieve affordable housing is what you've done in the past and what the board's done in the past is to find underutilized properties and try to buy them up and rehab them and put them out. I mean, everything we do is a strategy towards creating affordable housing. So I don't know that we need to, necessarily put achievable goals in here. These are sort of broad, goals to go into the master plan that we want the town to prioritize in its master plan going forward.
Okay, I'm looking at it. It's being tasked to us because it's under the housing. So, okay,
Yeah,
I
that
just
is
jumped the
your
gun.
task.
Yeah,
But I want to do it. And I'm like, I want to do this. So how are we going to do it? Because we need to help people. And that's the whole purpose
yeah.
of us being here. So, okay, I'm good. But I like that. I like that ad by Tom. So thank you. I think it's great.
I also think that there is, an educational component to this topic in particular, and that's one thing that this board might be able to take up, really making sure that people in town understand what, moderately affordable housing is really who it's meant to serve, because I think there's a lot of stigma around affordable housing, around those types of units. And so it's important for the greater community at large to understand, who's being priced out of the market.
Yes, I like that point exactly, Sarah.
I like the word moderate, because for just that reason.
Yep.
I think moderate is somehow better to work into it. And of course, we all realize that the builders have trouble making profit on moderate housing.
Yes.
But even part of the measure report on is, we increase the social awareness of difference between, affordable housing and moderate housing.
Exactly.
There's a big distinction between the two.
Mm-hmm.
Even accessory apartments would help.
Yes.
accessory apartments are huge and it's not allowed. I mean, so there's not only just building things and adding and putting things onto the building,
Right.
it's just
Still
different
restriction.
allowances that would make things easier. Like even like I said, an accessory apartment, because you rent it out, that a rental piece is more affordable. You know, people may not be able to afford the taxes of owning the house, this, that, the other thing, it comes with a down payment, but they could, you know, rent out an accessory apartment or the duplexes. So I mean, there's lots of different options besides just 40Bs.
That would be
I
John's
agree.
thoughts.
I agree, John.
All right, thank you. This is good. We will add an H5. And like I said, there's different ways to measure that. But I like what Sarah said. It's like you have to educate people. Moderate doesn't mean low. Moderate
No.
means I have a decent job, and I would like to live in Southborough, but there's no houses I can actually afford.
Yeah.
Or on the flip side, people that raise their families in Southborough want to downsize to a smaller house. There's nothing I can do for that either.
Right. Right.
In my experience, those people often look for a condominium. Because with a townhouse, you can get under 4,000 square feet.
I said downsize, Alex.
That's what I'm saying. That's what
On
I'm
my
saying.
street, a couple of the houses were bought and expanded on, and there's multi-generational families in there. There's the grandparents living with their kids and their grandkids across the street. It's awesome. And then another house a little bit down, the same thing. I think you've got both maternal and paternal grandparents living in the house. They expanded it by about, I don't know, 1,500 square feet. And so I don't know, you wouldn't consider it an accessory apartment because, you know, they have a common living area and probably one kitchen, but that kind of stuff is what we could promote as well. And I think that would work.
That I think goes, it's not an H5 one. I consider H5 to stand on its side for that.
Yes.
I think one of these things are one of the other H's.
It's a good thing to note though, John. That's really interesting.
That was part of our HPP that Courtney actually had brought up in the beginning. And it was neat to just watch it as she was talking about. I was seeing it happening, you know, in my own backyard, and I thought it was great.
Of course, a lot of this is zoning.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
Most of it.
a lot of this content did come directly from the HPP with kind of a minimal, kind of word phrasing, and I'm going to note that, obviously in the footnote of our section, because, it doesn't, we talked about this a lot with the master plan committee. There's these large scale documents that each, committee has, the open space, plan, there's the municipal vulnerability preparedness plan. So there's these large scale documents. And so why reinvent the wheel? Might as well take the content that's applicable and put it into the master plan section, and then just kind of reference back to the full document in case people want, more information.
Now, on H3, I'm sorry, I'm muted. On H3, would that be a place to, like, where we put, i.e., accessory apartments, multifamily, so that way it's
Yes.
explaining what we're trying to, it's not just saying what it is, it's actually saying,
Yep.
broad, it's more defined what we're trying to achieve.
Okay,
I'm
so
not saying put in a huge
Yeah.
multifamily.
Right. So I think if you scroll down,
Oh, I'm sorry.
Is it, which number did you say, John?
You've got it down there. I just saw H3. You have it down there right there. You have
so then these are like the kind of the call outs for what.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
you know.
awesome. I'm sorry I didn't see that on there.
No, that's
great.
okay. But yeah, I think, accessory apartments is going to be a really big key. And I know that, planning has talked a little bit about it. Jesse has brought it up, in the planning board meetings. So I think, and Northborough just came out with an amendment to their code, kind of helping to remove the barriers from the accessory apartments over there. So there's definitely some models that are local that, we can take a look at. And I think that that's something we could definitely push forward as an initiative, you know, maybe for next town meeting.
Anything else on this, Tom?
Nope, this is, like I said, so after the 9th, we'll make some additional modifications along the way, and then we'll send out revision 2. The ask of the committee is to mock it up, and I will have, you know, some guideline instructions in the email when that happens of, you know, what we're looking for the committee to do. And we'll make it very obviously, like things in red is something we definitely want to touch upon and stuff like that. We'll keep the same color coordination, but all that will be explained in the email when I send it out.
Okay, perfect. You guys did a great job on this. This is a really excellent
Thank you.
start. So thank you very much.
Thank
I
you.
know you put a lot of time and energy into that document.
Yes, you
so
have, Sarah.
We do appreciate you very much.
Sarah and I Zoom together very well.
Do.
If she does the work, you take the
Yeah.
credit.
Okay, HPP implementation plan, next steps.
Sure.
Sarah,
I think
can you update us on the real estate and that stuff? So you know more than I do at this point on it.
Sure. So yeah, moving forward on implementing, you know, HPP, I think, in a lot of different ways. But right now, do I have it listed separate, the 5-year strategic plan, or can I talk about that yet?
That is down below, but you can go ahead. It's
Okay.
on the agenda. So if you're combining them up, we're fine.
Okay. Yeah, sort of just combining them.
And I'm running on 2 hours of sleep, so
Okay. So,
So take your time.
take your time. I'm taking notes. I'm good. Go.
yeah, because I think, you know, I think the biggest step that we are taking in terms of moving forward this HPP is this 5-year strategic plan. So, you know, the application was submitted to MAPC. I sent that out to everybody, so I hope everyone had an opportunity to take a look at it. Mark Purple signed off on it. I did reach out to MAPC to find out when the funding award might be. They did not, unfortunately, have a specific date or even a time frame for me. All he said was the spring, which I sort of thought to myself, I think it is spring, but I'm hoping that, you know, within the next 4 weeks or so, we should hear some feedback from them to move forward. So,
Fingers crossed.
yeah.
Okay, so that's all right. So
Kinda all
we're
I
set on
have
that
there.
one. What about options for purchasing? Availability of land in town is pretty slim pickings, which the EDC has found out. Does anybody know of any possibilities of houses or something that we could work with Habitat for? Because I haven't seen anything. I actually have a listing of like all town-owned properties. None of them are buildable. You can't do anything, or they're landlocked, so you can't do anything.
What's too bad is a house about 4 houses down from me. There was an elderly resident, well, not elderly, there was a resident that passed away, and they sold their house to We Buy Ugly Houses without throwing it on the market, and it's been gutted and gone through by them. That would have been a great opportunity, but didn't know it was possibly even available. So
I think we all need to keep our ears very open to hear of anything like that, John, because we actually have money and we can do something, and Habitat will work with us. I mean, we were all present, listened to their conversation about what they could do. We need to do
what's our
something.
target price range that would ideally like to stay in or under? And for what? You know, like I saw, you know, in the past there was some duplexes that went for, you know, 500,000 or 600,000. Are we looking for the 500,000 or 600,000 duplex? Are we looking for a rehab property? Are we looking for a bigger property that we could build on? You know, tear down the Andrea type of thing. I'm not meaning that. I'm just saying
Right.
in general, what are we looking for? What do we want? What is the specifics to help me understand what I'm looking for? Because I hear about things all the time, and I just want to know what we're really looking for in property.
Well, if we can do a single family home, we can rehab it with Habitat.
But what would
assume
our
we're
price range
looking
be?
anywhere
Number five?
from, I would assume we're looking anywhere from what, 200 to possibly up to 5. I don't think we really want to spend more than that because we're gonna have to spend money on rehabbing, but I'm not sure. So the Affordable Housing Trust Fund committee is actually meeting at noon today. So there are applicants. Stockwell is on the market. So Chelsea, you might do better with updating everyone on this than me. I know that the house is in the market. We have applications and there's stuff that needs to be done. So I'm going to let Chelsea hand that. I'm going to hand that over to her because Board of Selectmen hat, put that on.
Sure. So Stockwell has been on the market since last Monday. And there's been several applications received. It's a first come, first serve. So what that means is first application that's complete essentially has the first offer. And so then if that person chooses not to take the house, then it will go to the second person that had their full application in. We had a list of things to do from the realtor. So we have been having contractors go in and update things. The reason why the trust is meeting today is because it needs a new furnace. So the trust had allocated $10,000 to get the house back on the market. And we will need more money because of the furnace issue. So we have a plan. Once we have the approval from the trust, then we will have that installed. I think the turnaround time is pretty quick. And that's about it. So,
Hey, Chelsea, I'm just curious, how do they, this is a unit that, the town bought to turn around to make it affordable. Is there a criteria of income criteria that
Yes.
people have to meet in order to apply?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Gotcha. And what is the criteria? Just out of curiosity.
I
I don't want to put you on the spot. I'm just curious. Is it,
I don't
no
have
problem.
it memorized.
There's some affordability criteria though. You can't be a millionaire and buy this
That
unit.
can't be specific.
Yeah, so it's the price is set by DHCD.
Okay,
So,
gotcha. They probably gearing towards 80% of
yeah
income or something like that. Yeah, gotcha.
The-
Okay.
Go ahead, Sarah.
My understanding is that the main criteria is that they have to have $5,000 down and that they cannot be cost burdened by the mortgage and the taxes. So they cannot have more than 30% of their income being spent on mortgage and taxes. So, if the house is selling for X and their income is Y, they have to make sure that they're not spending, 40% of their income, on the mortgage and taxes.
But do you happen to know, Sarah, on the other side of that equation, what your maximum income in order to qualify? In other words, a developer can't buy this and gut it and turn it into.
Right.
Is there like you have to be?
I'm not entirely certain.
Okay, sorry, I keep putting people on the spot, but I get it.
Sorry,
No worries.
I wish I.
But Tom, it is deed restricted, so
Yeah.
they can't buy it and then sell it for a profit.
Right.
That's not allowed. And
Right,
also,
that's
I
the
know there's part of the criteria is that you can have never owned a property before.
Oh, gotcha. It's for first
Unless
time
there's
homebuyers.
been some sort of life event that would cause, like, there's some criteria that you could fall under. But there's definitely, it's all in the, actually the application's online.
Yeah, gotcha. But the whole point of it is it's there for people who need housing that can't afford market rate housing in Southborough. That's the bottom line.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, so hopefully we'll have somebody in there, in the next 2 months.
I was trying to find the article on it, Tom. I believe for a family of 4, the maximum family income, I want to say was under $100,000. It was like that. I think for like 1 or 2 people, it was like maximum family income of like $52,000, and then to a family of 4, it was like 80 something. I can't find it, and again, my figures are probably off a bit, but not by a ton.
In the house itself, the condo, is what, less than 300,000 too.
It was 195, I think,
Well,
right?
not less than 300.
I think it's 190. It may be 195, 192 to 195.
Yeah.
And
193.
thank you.
It is, it's
There
193.
you go.
It includes the realtor fee, so that will come off the top. And then we're essentially using the trust to pay for, so I think there's like 65 to 70,000 in the trust right now. So we're using the funds out of the trust to pay for the work that is needed on the condo. And then
Cool.
the net from taking out the realtor fee will go back into the trust.
Oh,
Do they
excellent.
pay taxes on the value assessed by the affordable, or do they pay the taxes on the actual real assessed value? Because that could be a burden as well. I mean, if they're paying 193 for it, yet it's
Yeah.
valued at 400, do they have to pay taxes on 400? And that's
I would have to
Can we
look at the
change that?
assessor card, John. I'm not sure.
I suspect they do, John. I think the tax assessors just assess property across the board, whatever their valuations are, so that's my guess.
But it's deed restricted to a certain value.
Yeah, and that affects the valuation. That's true. Yeah. So in some sense, it's baked into the affordability component of it.
Hey, can I go back to what John was saying? What can we afford? What should we be looking for? If we turn back, the time machine, there was a couple of duplexes in town. The one off of Parkerville, I think off of Woodland and Parkerville, down by the old gas station. It was a 2-family. I forgot what it sold for, say 500,000. To me, that seems like a very good opportunity, because you have 2 housing units, and if you divide the price into 2, that's per housing. Is that something we should be looking at? Because I think some of those, and there was another one on Marlborough Road that actually sold too. Again, it's a 2-family, flat roof, family 1 on the bottom, family 2 on the second floor. I seem to be, you get a big bang for your buck for those.
I think we should look at everything and anything that we can do to help anybody that we can help. I mean, if it's a duplex, if it's a townhouse, if it's something that we can help a family get into and make their life better, that's what we should be looking at. I don't think we're limited as a committee as to what type of building we need to find. We just need to find something. So
could
a duplex is fine. That sounds like a great opportunity. Our problem is the money, the cash flow. That's our problem. So affordable has, well, you're going to spend another 10 or more on this furnace. I mean, the furnace may cost 15,000, who knows? So say you have 50,000 in there right now. I think you have 70 and then whatever you spend. So let's say they have 50,000. We still have not had that 196 to, what is it? 197, 276.62 money transfers from CPC. I've sent 2 emails. I haven't gotten any response. So I was going to ask the committee today to vote to give me the authority to send a letter to Lisa Braccio as the chair of the Affordable to actually send CPC a letter telling them they want the money transferred, because we're not getting anywhere. So that's another $196,000 that would be available to us to do something with. So our hands are so tied because of the cash flow. We need a warrant article to start transferring the housing money into the Affordable Housing Trust Fund, because otherwise we can't do anything. We can't, our hands are seriously tied. So we can come up with a price range, John, but if we don't have the cash to do it.
Well, I thought we rectified that. I thought we were going to change the verbiage on, because you don't need a whole warrant article. You just need the verbiage changed on the transfer of the funds from the CPC is what I thought we came up with. So that'll already be on this warrant. So by town meeting this summer, we should be able to start having that in. No? Am I wrong on that?
Sarah, I don't know. I mean, I'm hoping it helps, but
I think that there is potential to change some of the verbiage, for this warrant, in terms of, making sure that those funds are direct transferred into the Affordable Housing Trust. I'm not sure what the CPC article language looks like at the moment. But I mean, amendments obviously can be made at town meeting, so I think there's potential for that to happen, presently. It is just the difference of a few words, really, in terms of transferring it directly.
Yeah, I don't think it's like a whole big warrant article itself. I think it's just the changing
Verbiage.
the way that what we have is written,
Right.
but just,
Right, because there is a standard, there is some standard language around, allocating those funds to, housing, but it's that transfer, it's that immediate transfer that is not inherent in the current language. But again, to make the change is only, a few words difference.
No, there's over 400, just over 400,000 in the bucket over there, and it's just sitting there, and we can't access it. 'cause
I
we-
think by town meeting, we should be able to. I really
I
do.
hope so. I hope
don't
so,
think it's
John.
like reinventing, it's not really reinventing the wheel on the verbiage for the warrant article. I've looked at examples from other towns, and I believe Chelsea has as well. So town meetings, I know it right now, it's a few months away. That goes by like that. At least to me, it does lately. So that's why I was asking, what are we looking for in the future? And then I was thinking, would it be like, should we look at like bigger homes that are available that may need work, and then bring Habitat for Humanity in? I don't know if this is a question for Sarah. Is that something, say we found, a decent sized colonial, and we wanted to somehow make that into a 2-family, because that was part of what Courtney and the HPP had been talking about in the past. Is that something we could explore, or does our zoning not allow that as of yet? And then moving forward, how do we, if that's not allowed in the zoning, how can we get it into the zoning if that's something we wanted to do? But you know what I mean? So with that, like Tom was saying, the most bang for your buck is a duplex if we could. And like
the
that one on Woodland would
duplex.
have been perfect because it was all redone. So if we could do something like that with Habitat for Humanity, is that something we should explore or not?
Yeah, I mean, I think that it's something to think about, and it's something to explore. I think that, looking at our funds holistically too is kind of a component here, right? So like if we take on kind of a smaller, kind of short-term project and expend funds that way, does that hinder, or what is the impact to trying to do a larger scale project down the road, So I think that that's, also something to just kind of think about and to weigh, and I don't have the answer at the moment.
I think you're,
Just
yeah.
think about it. This is
It's
crazy.
expensive.
You think about it, say that we do find, like you said, a colonial, it's gonna decent piece of property. We decide to, again, you need permits and all that stuff, but we're turning it into a 40B. And we don't have our 10% yet. So we have some other criteria we can get that approved to make it into a 2-family out of a single colonial, because the town does not have their 10%. We can apply it through a 40B process, because that's what it is.
It's just a really expensive thing to do to convert
I know.
single family home into a duplex for 2 families. It'll probably cost you more than what you bought the house for. So
But
that's
the
a
state
huge
grant
expense.
funding that I got from Lynn Tremblay, the head of the housing authority, that you can get money from the state for a 1-bedroom. I think, or it was like $75,000 to renovate, and if up to $125 if it's like 2 or 3 bedrooms. So there's other monies. There's so much other monies available through these one-stops and other grants that I think that are underutilized by the town of Southborough. That when Monique used to be our EDC coordinator, she really opened my eyes to how much grant money is really out there and not gone
Yeah.
after. So, I mean, believe it or not, there's money out there that we could go after in the hundreds of thousands of dollars that may actually help us to do something like that, because the state's pushing for all these housing bills. So instead of just thinking small scale, I mean, we could actually look outside the block and think big scale. There's 6 acres of residential property behind the CAS building. that Cas Building owns, because the industrial highway only goes 250, the business zoning or commercial zoning that we have on Route 9 goes 250 feet from the center of Route 9. And then as they add lanes, these people are losing more property on Route 9. That's one of the problems. But beyond that, then it has to be residential property. So there's a lot of companies that have their buildings on Route 9, and then behind it, they own this residential property that's really not being used. So, I mean, there's things that we could actually look into. I mean, there's a lot more possibilities if you think outside the box.
That to me is a lot more practical, because it's been my experience gutting and redoing houses costs often more than to rebuild them. And then in this town, we've got the septic system problem. So if you're turning it from one family to a two-family, you're probably talking a whole new septic system. Depending on the parking, that can easily be $400,000. Excuse me,
Right.
$40,000.
I was going to say, yeah, what's nice about septic systems is with the new designs, they've actually gone down in price over the last 10 or 20 years.
Depends how they perk.
Yeah, but even so.
So can I make a suggestion? So
Absolutely.
Sarah just applied for this 5-year strategic plan grant, right? We have the one-stop grant that could, that the letter of intent is due April 2nd. And then I think the full application is due sometime in May, maybe. John, I don't know if you know the dates or not. But I think unless we have a property that comes in the market that we're interested in purchasing now, I would suggest we wait until we have a strategic plan in place, or this grant opportunity that we know we'll need funds for out of the Affordable Trust, and go to the Affordable Trust with, here's our plan. This is what our intent is over the next 5 years. And here is what we want to do in terms of funds. And actually come with one package, rather than just going to the trust now and saying, we want the money moved now. I don't think that we're ready to actually act today, unless there's something that comes in the market that makes perfect sense for us to pursue. I would rather have a strategic plan and say, we're going to have a first home buyer program where we can help people purchase their first house. We have a plan for a larger scale development like what John's talking about. So we can do those two things simultaneously. We can help people in the short term. And this is kind of what the long-term goal is. I'm more comfortable having like, this is what we're doing, rather than just saying, we want the money because we think we might use it soon.
Problem is, if we don't have the availability of the cash, which is what's happened to Shopsy all these years,
Yeah.
we can't do anything until town meeting. That's the problem.
But Dorian, it's already been allocated. We would need to go to the trust and say, we have this project that we want to act on now, before it, let's say it comes in before the strategic plan is done. And we go to the Affordable Trust and say, can we request this is the project we want to do. Let's work with CPC to get the funds transferred.
Right. I'm not talking about the money that the trust has now. The funds that are in CPC, that are in the housing bucket, over 400,000, that requires town meeting approval. Can't touch that money until you get town meeting approval. That's the money I'm referring to, not the money with the housing trust fund. I'm talking about the larger money.
So sending CPC an email to transfer it isn't.
No, that's a separate thing. No, that's a totally separate thing. So we're talking two separate things here.
I understand the two buckets. I thought I'm referring to the emails that are going to CPC now. I thought you wanted.
No, I want them to transfer the 196,000 that was approved at town meeting.
I understand. I understand.
Right.
That's what I'm saying. I would rather have a plan and say, this is what we want to do with it, transfer the money. I just don't see the value in going to CPC now to have the money moved over if we don't have anything to act on right now. Like, I think we should focus on what our strategic plan is and go to them with a full plan and say, and this is how much money we want to transfer over yearly in addition to transferring what's already been appropriated.
But the money that's been appropriated should have been transferred. Once it's appropriated, it should be transferred to the Affordable Housing Trust Fund. It shouldn't be sitting with CPC. It's already been appropriated. It should have been transferred and it hasn't been. I'm just trying to correct that so the money is put where it needs to be. So we don't have to keep track of it. This has been sitting there since 2009, 2010 and 2011. So that money's just sitting there with them when Affordable Housing Trust, look, we've got an issue with the furnace. We need the money to be where it was allocated to be, and it hasn't gone there. So I'm trying to rectify that problem, that challenge, and then we can move forward with the other money. But it's going to end up getting, I don't know, it's just getting too confusing when things are not done when they should have been done. We're talking years. We're not talking a couple of months here.
I just feel like we're on a great track right now and we're collaborating together. And I just think I am more comfortable having a plan and saying, this is what we're going to do. I understand that it hasn't been transferred, but it hasn't been transferred for 12 years. Right. So now we're going to go and say, yeah, we want it now. And we don't have a strategic plan done or a project that we need to utilize the money for. That's all I'm saying.
Hey, Chelsea, can I ask you a question about the mechanics of that? Just going to Dorian's question. So it just hypothetically, if the money stays where it's at now, and then in 6 months, we decide there's a great opportunity to buy a house that's underutilized. And, there's a process, plop and, say we can buy it for, I'm just picking a number, $300,000. If we decide we want it, you don't pay $300,000 on day one, right? You put down a $20,000 deposit, and then there's a closing process, and then, you close on it 2 months later. So if hypothetically we had an opportunity like that, I'm just trying to walk through how the mechanics of it. We have the $20,000 in the funds now, we can plop down, but the process for getting the money that Dorian's talking about, is that 2 months between offer and closing enough time to go to the CPC trust funds and have the money transferred over? Or is Dorian right that if we wanted the additional $280,000 in my hypothetical, you'd have to go to town meeting?
No, so the 196, you don't have to go to town meeting. So that is, now
it's there, it's available to us if we needed to. If we really had a project, that 196 would be available to us. It wouldn't be instantaneous, but if we wanted to get it, we can make a request and get it if we needed it.
Right.
Okay.
So right now, let's say with Dorian's example that we have 50,000 in the trust once it's all said and done with what we had to expend for Stockwell, then the sale of Stockwell will result in like 180,000 to go back into the trust. So then you're at 230.
Okay, gotcha. So ultimately the trust fund is where we draw from.
Yeah.
But there's no, it's with CDC. CDC transfers it.
No, so the 230 is with the trust.
Okay.
That's in there. Well, that will be in there once Stockwell sells.
Yeah, once Stockwell sell, right. Yeah, right.
And then the 196 has been appropriated at town meeting, but not transferred to the trust. So you're talking about 230 plus almost 200. So you're at 430.
So that 196, if we wanted to transfer to the trust, which is where we would draw it from, there's a process short of town meeting that allows that to happen.
Yeah, well, so I wouldn't even say that there's actually a process because I don't know that it's been done. Well, it hasn't been done in the last 12 years, right? Meaning
actually funded it from the town general funds to transfer it to the right.
Well, it's not in the general fund. It's in a CPC bucket. But it's appropriated. Right. So that is sitting there, but it doesn't need town meeting to move over.
Okay, that was my question. In other words, what's the magic to moving it from the CPC
I think
the trust fund?
I think it's going to CPC and saying, this is our intent. And so we'd like to move it over to either fit with one of the projects that we have, that we've identified, or with a strategic plan that we've all signed off on, that this is what we're going to act on.
Gotcha.
That's my perspective anyways. I think Dorian has a different
Yeah, I'm not
approach.
asking about the policy of it. I'm just asking about the mechanics of it. If we just
Okay.
decided as a policy measure that we wanted to access those funds, there would be a process for access to going to CPC and making an application to say, hey, we want to use those funds for this project. Please transfer it over to the trust so we can use it.
Yeah.
That doesn't involve waiting another 6 months for the next town meeting to have town meeting transferred.
Right. But
Gotcha.
Dorian's point is also so that's for that first bucket, but then there also is 400,000, Dorian, is that right?
There's just over 400,000 right now in another
Okay.
bucket.
And then there'll be more appropriated on May 20, or more identified on May 22nd as an amount out of the, 4 buckets of CPC that will be allocated to the housing side. And that's what you need town meeting to appropriate over in addition to the 196.
Gotcha. Boy, it's dizzying. Okay, I think I have it though.
That's why I want the money transferred. It should have been transferred 12 years ago. It's still sitting with CPC. It should be with the Affordable Housing Trust Fund. It shouldn't be sitting with CPC anymore. And what's happening is we're going to start losing track of what's where. It's been 12 years and we didn't realize this was voted in 2009. Nobody had any ideas until we did the research on it. We didn't know that's when it was appropriated. But the money should be where it's supposed to be. It's supposed to be with the Affordable Housing Trust Fund. It should not still be sitting with CPC 12 years later. And then if the money is with the Affordable Housing Trust Fund, it's one less step we have to take in order to secure funding if we get the opportunity to do something. Otherwise, we have to go to CPC. We have to go through this whole thing of trying to get the money transferred. Why not do that now? The money has been appropriated. It is supposed to be with the Affordable Housing Trust Fund. We don't need a plan. The money has already been approved by town meeting. I think the money should be where it was meant to be. That's just my feeling. They've been holding on to it for 12 years. I'm hoping it's in an interest-bearing account because that's a lot of money to be sitting there and not gaining interest. So I would like it in the Affordable Housing Trust Fund where it belongs. That's just my take. Money should be transferred when it's appropriated. So I understand Chelsea's side. I just feel very differently on the other way. So, but it's up to us to decide how we want to do this because I'm not making that decision. I think this should be a board vote. That's my feeling. So I would be more comfortable everybody giving an opinion on it and then us voting whether we want to ask them to transfer that money or not transfer the money. It's fine. Whatever, you guys need to think about it and decide. That's not my decision to make. I want the board to decide that.
Chelsea, what's the downside of asking for it to be transferred?
They say no because we don't have a plan. I don't know. I just
That's my question. Do we have a higher risk of getting shot down if we don't have a plan to present to them to justify the transfer? Or no?
I just think it makes the conversation harder to not have it. I like to go in with a plan and know what we're doing. And I don't see a downside to waiting until we have a plan, I guess.
What happens if a house comes available for say?
Well, then I think you have a project to act on. And I think then you go to them and say, we want to talk, we have a project and this is what we want to do.
And how long do you think that, and how long would it take to get back? Because I've been like the house at the end of my street went on the market on Sunday. They had an offer on Tuesday. It was a small ranch house. Houses are selling and it went over ask. So my question is, and I agree with you on process, by the way, and hi back there, by the way.
Sorry.
I agree with you on process and in theory, I really do. But then I also worry that we could have missed opportunities if we didn't have the money that already is ours, well, not ours in the housing trust, that's the housing trust available to us right away. Because I'm not making a statement, it's more of a question. Do you think we could lose anything by not having it in there if we need to act quickly?
It goes to Tom B's point of the timing, right? So we have funds that you could put a down payment
deposit,
and then you have your due diligence period, right? So you have that.
So we wouldn't lose anything. So we have no time lost if we waited.
Well, assuming that-
if an opportunity presented itself, we are still in a place where we could have a project to go after and do your due diligence. We have enough money for a down payment on it to start the ball rolling and such, is what you're saying.
I mean, I think maybe that lends to a conversation that we could have with CPC to say, you know, this is what our intention is. If something were to come on the, yeah,
I mean, my thought is, I mean, Dorian's right. I don't think anyone on this call would disagree that it would be better for us to have the funds in the trust now, so that if we do have a project, we don't have to go to somebody and beg and do a dog and pony show for it. But I mean, I agree with Alex. I mean, really, it's a question of, do we have a realistic chance of getting that money transferred over without anything concrete to present to them? Or is Dorian's argument correct? Hey, this is supposed to be our funds, just transfer the bloody funds over because they're supposed to be here and not with you.
Even if we apply and they say no, what's to stop us for applying when we have the project?
Yeah, I suppose so. Yeah, there's no downside to asking for it. If they tell us to pound sand, then we go to plan B. If we do, well, once we do have a project,
We haven't lost anything, really.
Well, there's two parts of that letter. How long would it take? Just think of the cycle. We bought a price, we have 20,000, we put it down. They want to close in what, 60 days? But then the trust fund doesn't meet for another, we missed the cycle and they don't miss for another month. And
well,
they
see,
don't
the
really,
trust, I can assure you, the trust would meet. I mean, Dorian and I both sit on the
They've
trust.
done 2 emergency
But
meetings
it
very
would
quickly.
involve getting a
Well, the
meeting with the
CPC
CPC, which goes to Tom's point. There could be logistics and, you know, if we have
Yeah, we
60
don't
days
have-
to act. Yeah.
I mean, don't forget Dorian sits on CPC as well, but
Wow. So we got inside
No.
connections all over the place.
but you're right.
Record, it's no longer 60 days. Things are moving in 45 generally. From the time they offer to the time they close, it's closer to 45 right now. Because the buyers are just skipping a lot of things to win the property.
Yeah, no contingencies.
And
Boom.
there's, yeah,
But
there's
this,
been a lot of
I
cash
presume
buyers
that the
as
houses
well.
we're talking about would be pretty run down, you know, that there'd be, you know, a
No
house that
bidding
needs
wars.
some.
no bidding wars.
I don't know that we'd be bidding wars in the houses we'd be going after, but
Believe it or not, those are the ones that are selling the fastest.
oh, really?
Well,
The
Developers
one I
wanna get
just
in
put
there
under
and
agreement
house
needs
flippers.
$500 to $1 million worth of work, and they're closing in about 35 days.
Ugh.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm surprised the bank went along with it, but it did.
there's too many unknowns and I don't know, I should ask, but I don't even know if that money's in an interest bearing account, which I hope it is, because it's been 12 years of almost $200,000 sitting there.
So I do support Dorian's perspective here, and I hear where you're coming from, Chelsea, and I do think it makes sense to obviously, you know, have a good plan when the money is being expended. But I think that, you know, the development of an affordable housing trust fund, you know, is you know, a state kind of, it comes under state legislation and regulation, right? And so the town, you know, created, you know, made the efforts, you know, years ago to create this fund in order for it to have, you know, money in it and to be accessible. And, you know, having it, you know, in a CPC bucket is different than having it in a trust bucket. You know, there's different regulations that are tied to CPC. And, you know, who's to say, you know, if something happens at the state level, if they see that money just kind of sitting there, you know, ongoing, that it may not be, you know, kind of reabsorbed, so to speak. You know, it's just, I think there's more, in my perspective, there's a little more, you know, volatility and uncertainty in having it in a CPC bucket versus having it in an affordable housing trust bucket.
So I agree with you, Sarah. And the last thing I'm going to say is that if we were transferring it every year and we were using it, we haven't done anything with it since 2009. So I think our track record's pretty bad. And so all I'm saying is I think we need to go about this the right way where we haven't done anything for the last 12 years. So, I mean, I just, you know, that's my own opinion. If I were, I guess that would be my devil's advocate hat.
Well, and I totally get that, you know what I mean?
No.
And I think that the other way to sort of look at it is the fact that they're transferred into the Affordable Housing Trust doesn't mean that they're just gonna like evaporate or like be spent like willy-nilly, you know, right? Like
No,
there's still
right.
gonna be an accountability level, you know, just because they're being uncoupled from that bucket doesn't mean that they're, you know, it's like, woo, everybody's going to Cancun, you know? So I think that, you know, hopefully we can kind of just make that case, you know, to CPC to say like, we understand and recognize that, you know, this has been stagnant, there hasn't been movement forward. However, we think that, you know, good faith on everybody's part would be to at least move it into the trust and then continue to have these conversations about how that money, you know, will be spent inevitably.
And I suppose we can sell it as saying, look, you know, maybe we've been stagnant for the past 10 years, but, you know, the committee is talking about a lot of initiatives. And, you know, in order to implement these initiatives going forward, we need to make sure that there's going to be money there for us to implement these
timely
things.
manner, in a timely manner. Because that's the key too, is the timely manner of these funds.
And I don't know how
see-
long it
I see
takes
both
to
sides,
transfer it.
Chelsea, I do.
I don't have any idea timing for transferring. I have no idea. And I don't understand why it wasn't transferred to begin with. So I don't know.
Just curious, is the trust fund the only CPC bucket that has a different entity? Does recreation, open space, all the other buckets of the CPC, does they have the same mechanism as to transfer over to a trust fund before it can be spent?
No.
So we're the snowflake here.
Well, so, because, you know, the housing funds out, the CPC housing funds can be spent directly from there. They have more like strings, you know, tied to them. But once you get them into an affordable housing trust, which is why a lot of communities choose to create affordable housing trust, then they just don't have it as many strings. So like essentially, like if a community doesn't have an affordable housing trust and they allocate funding to how, you know, CPC funding to housing, then they have to spend it under CPC regulations versus, you know, the trust regulations.
Makes sense.
Okay, any more discussion?
Last thing. So you're on CPC,
I am.
Dorian, and you think you should take the money out of one of your committees and put it in the other one as a CPC member. Do you agree with that? I kind of lean towards Dorian then.
Yeah, I
If she
think
wonders
that-
about how long the process could take, and she's on that committee, I just hate to lose any opportunities that may arise because we don't have the fundage. If there was like what Tom M said earlier, that house on Woodland Road, that duplex, was just redone. There was 2 3-bedroom. I think I'm sorry, one was a 3-bedroom, one was a 2-bedroom, and I think it sold for $500,000. That would have been 2 affordable units we could have had. I just don't want to miss opportunities. And if I'm not sure if we would or we wouldn't. It sounds like we'd have enough money for a down payment. I just don't want to have opportunities such as that one and not have the funds available or the timing to get it done. I mean, if we have the funds enough to put a down payment on, and then the time enough to, like Chelsea said, to go with a plan and say, this is what we want to do, then I guess I'm okay with leaving it as such. But if we don't, I think we should try to get the money that's ours. That's my last closing statement. And now
It goes upon the theme that we mentioned an hour or so ago. We have, and I think, John, you said it, we have done a lot of stuff in our strategy of SHOP-C in the last couple of months, well, last several months, you know, the HPP. This is just part of that. Let's get our house in order so we can move forward. Part of our house in order is our bookkeeping. Our bookkeeping says, yes, we haven't done anything in the last 12 years. Yes, it's been appropriated town meeting. Yes, we're finally getting to a point where we're putting the funds in because we have, you know, our house in order. So I think I'm leaning towards you again, Dorian, for the 193 or whatever that dollar amount was.
196.
196. Because that's part of our cleaning our house, reorganizing our house, reorganizing the committee, revigorizing the committee, finding all the stuff that we haven't done in the past, which is bad on us. We're moving forward. This is already appropriated. It's bookkeeping. This should be just a simple bookkeeping exercise or request.
Yeah, I just don't know how long it takes to take care of that. I don't know what the process is. I've never been involved in the process to transfer once it's been approved, so I have no idea, but
Why don't we ask that in
I
our-
have
question.
asked, I've sent 2 emails and I haven't gotten a response yet, so.
on the process to get, like, what is needed to get it transferred and how long it takes? I mean, that I think,
I've sent 2 emails and I haven't gotten a response, so that's
Well,
why I want the request to come from the Affordable Housing Trust Fund, because the money is going to them anyway.
so I move that that we send a letter to the Affordable Housing Trust Fund to request the process of how to transfer the funds from CPC to the trust.
Approved town meeting funds. I think I just want to add that.
Approved, well, right, from approved town meeting funds to the trust.
Yes.
Sorry, my
I
doorbell.
have all the information right here. I can include that in there. Annual town meeting date and the amounts. There's 3 different amounts. Oh, we lost
Oh, I
Chelsea.
think Chelsea made a motion. Does anybody want to second
You
it?
want to second that motion?
I will second that motion.
Okay,
Kids.
this is a roll call vote.
So
John?
this
Oh.
is to,
Oh, wait,
Good.
discussion.
Yeah, I
Go
just
ahead,
wanna-
Chelsea. Go ahead.
I just want to make sure you understand what my motion was.
Right.
It
We
was-
just committed you to being the liaison and to write a 14-page report. So yeah, I second.
So this was not to actually, this isn't to move it. This is to request
Yes.
the trust to figure
Yeah.
out how to move it and how long.
To send a letter to
Yes.
the trust to ask
Okay.
about the process.
I just
Yep.
want to make sure, because that's not, okay. Got it.
And from that response,
Yes,
we'll dictate our next action.
yes.
I think that's a good compromise.
I'm fine with that. That's an excellent compromise.
Yep.
Chelsea, do you
Good
want me
girl,
to read the
Chelsea.
motion back?
Sure.
Got it. The motion that Shopsy send a letter to the Affordable Housing Trust Fund to request the process on how to transfer the approved town meeting funds to the trust.
Perfect.
Yes.
That
Okay,
was
thank
good.
you. Yes.
Chelsea, why couldn't you have said that a half hour ago?
You know, that's why I just went in and did a motion. Sorry.
Okay, trust to request. See, us to request, ask the trust how to request what's the process of how to transfer the approved town meeting funds? And then give them all the dates of the town meetings and the amounts.
Yes.
Mhm.
Okay. All right. We have a second. Do we have any more discussion on that? Tom?
I second it.
Okay. Any more discussion? Okay, it's a roll call vote. John? Didn't hear you. You are muted.
Aye, sorry about that. My
That's
dogs
okay.
keep barking.
Alex?
Aye.
Chelsea?
Aye.
Tom B?
Aye.
Tom M?
Aye.
Dorianne, I. Okay, it's unanimous. Okay, that will be done. Let's see, what else do we have? I think that's it. I think we're done. Great, I can go take a nap now. I'm sorry, I was in Disney for 2 weeks. I'm exhausted.
So sorry, who's gonna write the letter?
I'll do it. I'll do it with Sarah, in
Okay.
conjunction with Sarah. Do you want me to send a
Sounds
draft
good.
to everybody before I send it out? So you guys can see it?
Real. No,
No.
I'll touch you.
I don't think I
No?
understand.
Okay, all right. All right, Sarah and I will take care of it, if that's okay.
Sorry, we didn't talk about the one
Don't
stop.
stop.
Can we talk about that? It's on the
Oh, I thought that was in the other, no, we kind of hit on it. Okay, sorry.
did a little bit. So I
Yeah.
just want to give an update. The Board of Selectmen reviewed our letter on last Tuesday, I think. I don't know, we're meeting every week right now, so I'm getting my weeks confused. But Marty Healy, the chair of Board of Selectmen, and Vanessa Hale are spearheading the letter of intent, which is due next Friday, the 2nd. And so I know that they're working with the chairs of Capital, EDC, and Shopsy specifically related to the Route 9 request that we had. So they're going to take those 3 committees and essentially get a consolidated project with those 3 as one out of the 5. And then the Southville area for the zoning that we had requested, that will be its own. So Shopsy will be covering 2 out of the 5 requests. And just to remind everyone, then the state will come back with, this project would fit this grant. Now go write that grant application. So that's kind of, so this is kind of step 1, and then more to come on hopefully step 2.
And then
Go ahead, John.
on Monday, so the grant is due by May, final time was May 3rd through June 2nd is when the
Okay.
final applications have to be in. On Monday at 1, Vanessa put together a meeting for the 3 committees and boards to try to consolidate it via Zoom. I know Marika had already pretty much at the EDC had already done a presentation that had a bunch of the HPP stuff for EDC on Route 9. So a lot of it, I think, will be done pretty quick. Hopefully we'll be able to get it sent in, obviously, before the final date of Friday, the 2nd, because, sooner is always better. So I think it's a great opportunity for the town, and I'm glad that people got together on this with the different boards, because it's not free money. We've already paid for it. We're just getting it back. That's how I look at it.
Yeah, Sarah sent out that email, I think this morning, that outlines those from Vanessa Hale.
So is it just the chairs that are meeting on Monday? I mean, is it,
Well-
can we have somebody else from Shopsy if they want to join to that meeting?
I think as long as you don't have a quorum.
John, you're muted. Again.
I don't, if when I don't mute, my dogs will bark. When I'm muted, I can't talk. So I apologize. Yeah, I don't know. Do you know if it's a recorded meeting or any of that, Sarah? Or is it just more informational?
it seemed
I
to
don't know
me-
much about it, to be honest, Dorian.
I don't either. It seems
I
to
don't
me
know about
from-
it, so I'm trying to find right now.
Yeah, I think you were on the email.
I had to have missed that. Yeah, I must have missed that
It
email.
came
Hang
out
on.
like late yesterday afternoon.
I was
So
on-
yeah, I think that it's more of an administrative meeting, just in terms of like functionally, like you said, John, kind of putting together, the ideas from the different boards in regards to Route 9, so that the town has a consolidated submission for that particular project or
Okay,
concept.
so I'm looking at that email right now. So Chelsea, are you going to the meeting?
I was gonna go with I was gonna talk to you and see if you were gonna go or if you wanted me to go.
Is this the not it game?
And Sarah's also going to be there. So
And John, just, or Chelsea either, or, my understanding of the process is that, the Board of Selectmen is really kind of aggregating these ideas, because it sounds like, all 3 boards really have, an idea or, want to see something downtown or, for Route 9, excuse me. And so then the Board of Selectmen would take all that information, and then Vanessa would be writing that component. Is that correct?
Yeah, so
Okay.
Vanessa, I think, is working on a draft to
Okay.
have kind of the chair's review. And
Right,
then
that makes sense.
I mean, the chairs have already submitted their, like,
Right,
what you and Dorian did.
Sure.
So I think it's just making sure that every point gets hit from all perspectives.
sure.
On it. Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
Now it's so after you put your initial request in, which is, I would like to look at Route 9, which is, a real simple request, a letter of intent. Now they want, for the actual application, you need to have more of a complete narrative of how it benefits all the different parts and different things.
Sure.
like that. So
Yes,
I
I think
believe-
Vanessa was taking a first pass at that, and then
Right.
have all parties kind of beat it up on Monday.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Great.
right, well, Shopsy's covered on the list that was invited, so we're in good shape.
Great.
We got Chelsea there. Sarah's supposed to be there. I did reply that I'd be there, but I think between Chelsea and Sarah, I won't have to say anything. But as chair, I feel like I need to be there, so, no, I think we're covered then. We should be in good shape. Okay, does anybody have anything else they would like to discuss or question or anything that of what we have covered? That is
How many
on-
members do we have on this board? Because if I'm going to be there as EDC, I'm also a member of SHOPC. So do we have to worry about a quorum if
No, we
three
need
of us-
No, we
five.
have to have five.
5 is a quorum,
a five's a quorum? Okay.
so we're good, John. That's
Just
a very
make-
good question, though, but no, we're covered. We
Yeah,
have
good.
only 4.
I'd
Good to
always,
ask ahead of time.
I'd rather err on the side of caution.
No,
Yeah.
that was very good to bring that up. Thank you for doing that. I didn't think of it, but no, we need 5 for a quorum, so we're good. We are safe.
We're 7 though, aren't we? Or are we 9?
We're 7.
7.
So we
So
need
4 is
4
a
for
quorum.
quorum, just
I
to
thought we
clarify.
need 5 for a quorum.
Nope, 4.
4, just a
Majority.
simple majority.
Okay, well then,
Well,
I will-
it's still only 3 if if you
Yeah, if you're only
Chelsea
three.
are there. Sarah's just Sarah extraordinaire, non-voting member.
oh, that's right. She's not a voting member, so we're good. Okay.
No, she's just our backbone that does all the work.
Yeah.
Well, at least for Tom M.
Look at Tom. Okay, guys. So our next meeting as of right now is April the 13th. Everybody have that on their agendas.
Friday, the 13th.
No, it's
No,
the
it's Tuesday.
Tuesday, the
Tuesday,
13th.
okay, good.
I actually went, wait, we're gonna change that. It is Tuesday, the 13th, 8 a.m. So everybody's good with that date? All right, while we're together, can we please set the May date as well?
Sure.
Want to do Tuesday, the 4th? Or Tuesday, the 11th?
That's election day, so I don't think you can do that.
Can't do it on that day. Nope, we cannot. So you want to do the 4th?
Sure.
Is that all right?
Yep.
I'll be in Orlando that week, Dorian.
I'm jealous.
May
know,
the
I'm
fourth
act-
be with you.
I might just
Right.
not show up for the meeting and go. Okay. So Tuesday, May 4th, 8 a.m. SHOPC. We're good?
Great.
Unless you want to move it. How long are you in Orlando for?
Just a week.
You want to move to the 18th so John can be?
Oh, no, because I'm going to be in Disney on the 18th.
Oh, you are.
Yes.
I can lie and tell you that I'll check in.
Are you going to Disney?
I think I am. We're going all over the place. I think I'm going to do a day in Disney and check out that Avatar ride that I have not seen. So
You
I'm
mean
hoping
you mean the ride up with the Banshees?
Don't know.
Sivako.
don't know anything about it.
Oh,
So,
well, it's
looking
the
forward.
Banshee ride.
But anyway,
I can fill you in. You should have actually told me you were going to Disney because did you buy tickets already?
no, not yet.
Okay, you need to talk to me. Anyway, not in a meeting discussion. So, okay, so we're all set for the May meeting. Tuesday, April 13th is our next meeting. Have a great few weeks off. Stay safe, stay healthy, and go get vaccinated if you haven't, so that you are better protected.
Thank you.
And the
Thanks,
meeting
everyone.
is, I'm going to adjourn the meeting. Do I have a
You're gonna do
second
roll call.
motion?
Roll call.
Yes, so we have to do a roll call vote on this as well. John,
Aye.
Tom M,
Aye.
Tom B,
Aye.
Chelsea,
Aye.
Alex,
Aye.
Dorian, I. Okay, guys, thank you very much. Have a
Thanks,
great
everyone.
weekend.